evening, ladies and gentlemen. Pardon us for the delay, and welcome and thank you for attending the March 2nd Lakewood City Council meeting. There's a young lady here who's here with her mother who's taking a college class and has to be here for this meeting. And Brianna, would you please come to the podium and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Anderson?
Present.
Bullock?
Here.
Juris?
Here.
Madigan?
Here.
Marks? Here. Nowlin?
Here.
O'Leary.
Here.
Reading and disposal of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held January 20th, 2015.
Move to approve without the necessity of a reading.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Or any regardless of their influence. All those, and that motion passes.
Reading and disposal of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held February 2nd, 2015.
Move to receive and move to approve without the necessity of a reading.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Madam Chair, I'll abstain from that one.
That's the one. So that's 6 in favor and 1 abstention. Madam Clerk? And that motion passes. I move to defer the third set of minutes.
Second.
And any discussion on the deferral? All those in favor of the deferral? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 1, Committee of the Whole Report regarding February 23rd and March 2nd, 2015 committee meetings.
Thank you. The Committee of the Whole met Monday, February 23rd, with all members present, Directors Pay, Yousefi, Butler, Chief Gilman, and members of the public. Council asked Ken Haber in his volunteer role as Lakewood Hospital Foundation trustee, Mike Harrington, the Cleveland Clinic Chief Accounting Officer and Controller, and Ankit Chabra, the Senior Director of Finance for Lakewood and Fairview Hospitals, to present the financial construct of the proposal before Council. Specifically, Council asked for an overview of the balance sheets of LHA, assets included in the proposal, an assessment of the risks, and a general understanding of how the package was negotiated. Mr. Haber was very clearly pointed out that LHA and LHF representatives had the responsibility to consider a future for our city's healthcare needs within the following framework. Number 1, does it meet the community's needs? And number 2, is it financially viable? To supplement the financial materials, charts, graphs, narrative, presented by both Subsidium and the mayor, Mr. Haber and the clinic representatives shared documents that were prepared by Cleveland Clinic Foundation that showed the total assets as of 9/30/14, estimated transition costs, use of estimated assets, risks, and a summary of the proposal. Council questioned each document and asked for specific follow-up. Cleveland Clinic representatives also wanted Council and the Lakewood community to be aware that they have recently changed their policy to now accept Medicaid payments. It was discussed that the public perception is still very much to the contrary, and that additional effort may be needed to change this. That's the public perception, that is. 3 members of the public asked questions as well. Minutes and materials are all available on the city's council's website, and I encourage you all to continue to look at them. And if you don't find the answers you need, please call the city or any member of council. Move to receive and file that communication.
Second.
Is there discussion on the communication? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And the ayes have it.
Item 2, Resolution 877114, a resolution appointing Glenn to the Planning Commission for the 6-year term beginning January 1, 2015, and ending December 31st, 2020.
Move to substitute Kyle Baker.
There's a second? A second? I'll second
Second.
that. On the motion to substitute, is there any further discussion on the motion to substitute?
Madam Chair.
Councilman Murray?
Thank you. I think that Kyle Baker, I've known him for a number of years and know that he is both an incredibly dedicated citizen of Lakewood as well as an incredibly competent professional, and I look forward to the possibility of his continued service to Lakewood. Thanks.
Is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Anderson?
Yes.
On substitution.
Bullock?
Yes.
Juris?
Yes.
Madigan?
Yes.
Marks?
Yes.
Nowlin?
Yes.
O'Leary.
Yes.
And that motion passes. I move to adopt.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Anderson?
Yes.
Bullock?
Yes.
Juris?
Yes.
Madigan?
Yes.
Marks?
Yes.
Nowlin?
Yes.
O'Leary.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes.
Item 3, Rules and Ordinances Committee Report regarding Ordinance 6114.
Councilman O'Leary.
Thank you. The Rules and Ordinances Committee met this evening. All members of the committee were present, as well as a couple members of the public. There was only one item on the docket this evening. That was proposed ordinance number 61-14, which is our quarterly codification ordinance. I've noted in previous reports on previous versions of this ordinance that this ordinance passed quarterly merely instructs Lakewood's codifier to add those ordinances that the city passed or modified in the last quarter to our codified ordinances. So the the committee rather considered proposed ordinance 61-14 briefly and unanimously recommended adoption to the full council. I move that this report be received and filed.
Second. On the motion to receive and file the report, is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 4, Ordinance 6114, an ordinance to approve the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances and resolutions as parts of the various component codes of the codified ordinances and to provide for the publication of such new matter, placed on first reading and refer to the Rules and Ordinances Committee, 12/15/14, second reading, 1/5/15.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of adoption?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 5, Ordinance 515, an ordinance authorizing the transfer in advance of certain funds, placed on first reading and refer to the Finance Committee, 2/17/15.
Move to place on second reading.
Second.
Is there discussion on the motion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 6, Ordinance 615, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $12,027,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for various purposes.
Move to place on second.
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 7, Ordinance 715, an ordinance in the amount of not to exceed $2 million in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of West End Sewer Separation Project, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, placed on first reading and referred to the Finance Committee, 2/17/15.
Move to place on second.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 8, Ordinance 815, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $1,500,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay the cost of resurfacing various streets.
Place on second.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And that motion passes.
Item 9, Ordinance 915, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $950,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay the costs of improving parks within the city, including Lakewood Park, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto placed on first reading and refer to the Finance Committee 2/17/15.
Move to place on second.
Second.
Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 10, ordinance 1015, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $650,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of improving sidewalks within the city, placed on first reading and refer to the Finance Committee 2/17/15.
Move to place on second.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 11, ordinance 1115, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $250,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds and to pay the cost of replacing or improving the roofs of City Hall Annex, Winterhurst Ice Rink, and the city's service garage, placed on first reading and refer to the Finance Committee 2/17/15.
Move to place on second.
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor? Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 12, ordinance 1215, an ordinance amending Chapter 145, Keep Lakewood Beautiful Board, in order to update the code regulating the composition and duties of this board, placed on first reading, and refer to the Public Works Committee 2/17/15.
Place on second.
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 13, Resolution 879415, a resolution establishing a pilot program in western Lakewood to remove clean water sources from the city's sanitary sewer system in the furtherance of the city's permitting under the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency, and authorizing contracts for professional services for the pilot program, and to advertise for bids and enter into contracts for the purchase of repair, maintenance, and operating supplies, services, and equipment for the pilot program in an amount not to exceed $900,000, declaring a nuisance and identifying resident payment options under the pilot program, placed on first reading, and refer to the Public Works Committee 2/17/15.
Move to place on second.
Second.
I have a question on this. Could you remind us, administration, please, when the public meeting is on this topic?
Tomorrow,
At 7?
tomorrow, 7 p.m., Harding Cafeteria.
Thank you. It's a big meeting, a big public discussion, and certainly not the first one for this neighborhood, but an
What time?
important one. 7? Is there further discussion on this item? All those in favor? Move to
Aye.
placing on second.
Aye.
And those opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 14, communication from Councilmember Juris regarding appointment of Donald Heckelmoser to the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Councilman Juris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Your members of council attaches my letter to announce my appointment of Donald Huckelmosher to the Citizens Advisory Committee for the upcoming fiscal year. Move to receive and file.
Second, on the discussion to receive and file, is there any further discussion? The motion to receive and file, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Mosher.
Item 15, communication from Councilmember Marks regarding scheduling hearing for public input on health management in Lakewood.
Councilman Marks?
Thank you. Dear colleagues, as Chair of City Council's Health and Human Services Committee, I would like to schedule a public hearing to allow our residents to share their thoughts on creating a culture within Lakewood that thrives on healthy living, where healthcare is efficient and choices can be made to lead the healthiest of lives. This testimony from Lakewood citizens, many of whom are themselves health professionals, could help the city, Lakewood Hospital, and any prospective new community health foundation achieve the stated desire to implement cutting-edge population health management initiatives that would make Lakewood rank among the healthiest communities in the nation. As we carefully deliberate the important decisions before us regarding Lakewood Hospital, I would like to invite residents in our city to share their ideas to help us craft this new culture of health within our community. We certainly know that many residents of Lakewood take pride in our city and have a wealth of knowledge and expertise in many areas around healthy living and an alternative health care delivery. Many have already helped to make Lakewood one of the best places to live and raise a family. I believe that the decisions we make today will serve us long into the future. Lakewood certainly can become a model city that demonstrates how a city can be revitalized during the dramatically changing times of healthcare delivery in our country. We want to make sure that all of our citizens have equal access to healthcare delivery. However, more importantly, because our community rests within a confined environment where our city borders also define our school district, we can empower our residents to live healthier lifestyles through outreach, education, and opportunity. To achieve this goal, we must allow our residents input to help guide us in making the health of Lakewood a priority, where families can blossom in safe neighborhoods and good health flourishes within the community. I move to receive and file and submit to Health and Human Services for action.
Councilman Marks,
Second.
there's a motion and a second. We have so many meetings, and because this is such a big subject, we hope to have all of the health-related, finance-related, place-related discussions about the hospital and the LOI before us in committee of the whole. And in the interest of time and efficiency, hope to be able to keep all of us on this very time-consuming and long and deep deliberation within committee of the whole for all of us to attend. So I would just ask if we could have this conversation about health and the effects for our Health and Human Services Committee within the committee of the whole.
Well, I would agree that we do have a lot of meetings related to the LOI that's before us. I expected this to be somewhat of a separate meeting that would advance the culture of healthcare within the community based on what the citizens of Lakewood feel would be in their best interest to see coming forward in the community. So I see it as a separate entity beyond the Committee of the Wholes for the LOI. But I'm certainly open to...
I appreciate that very much, and I'm grateful for all the time and effort that everyone's been spending, especially our volunteers and the citizens who've been coming, and hope that we can continue as a one unit moving forward on all of these conversations, particularly those in which we're able to discuss alternatives. We do have a meeting scheduled Thursday, March 12th, here at City Hall, starting with alternatives, in which we are opening that and hoping that people from the community come and tell us what alternatives they feel would serve the city well in that area that has anything to do with not just the bricks and mortar, but with the services that are included. In addition, we have a meeting coming up this Thursday with members of Lakewood Hospital Association who will certainly contribute to this very important subject that you put before us. As well, we have another community meeting coming up on March 10th that will begin to talk specifically about services, but as well taking it into what you're discussing here, into the conversation about what this future can look like, especially with any of the possibilities available that have been presented in the LOI. So I hope that as a council that we can continue to move forward discussing, deliberating, and dreaming about all of this as one body, and would hope that my colleagues would agree that we all move forward in this together and not split off into particular committees until we find that there's something before us that we have to.
Madam Chair.
vote on. Councilman Bullock.
Thank you. First off, thanks to my council colleague, Councilwoman Marks, for initiating this discussion. I leave the mechanics to the committee chair. Perhaps one approach could be to simply for the Health and Human Services Committee to schedule a time at which the rest of us could also attend. I would plan to attend and certainly would look upon the deliberations with interest, even though I'm not officially a member of that committee, but perhaps I could be coordinated with the committee as a whole. But regardless of mechanics, I think what's helpful and interesting here to me is we've talked mostly up to now in our deliberations on the proposed hospital change about the definitions of inpatient care. We haven't yet spent as much time on the exciting part, which is what does a better future look like with population health management, with outpatient services, and what we may be able to achieve with a new community health foundation, yet to be named, yet to be structured. I know that that's going to be a subject of a future, I think, April forum, Mr. Mayor. What I think would be wonderful to do, and I think this letter gets at, is to have a lot of time tapping the expertise of Lakewood residents who are healthcare professionals themselves, or health professionals themselves, which include nutritionists, and they include psychologists, things that go beyond the traditional definition of the practice of medicine, of RNs and MDs and ODs or DOs. So I don't know that we know yet what we're going to be doing if we move forward with the proposed LOI. We don't quite yet know what that better future would look like, and we would be well served, in my view, by beginning to get public input on that question sooner than later. So I'll defer to you, my colleagues, on coordinating this, but I'll look forward to participating. And I get the sense that if we're going to get where we're going, or where we're hoping to go, which is an evolutionary step forward to population health management, the solution is going to look like something none of us are predicting today. It's going to be something new. It's going to be something that's done better in Lakewood that we haven't quite seen it come together in just the particular way. And that is going to mean, I think, we're talking outside the box. We're talking with the community. We're doing a lot of downloads from the experts that live right here in Lakewood. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Bullock's bringing up a good point about mechanics, and so perhaps Councilman Marks, we could work to keep this in committee of the whole, but look to you to help guide this on Thursdays, particularly starting with Thursday the 12th, in which we're having the first part of alternatives discussion with the public, and we need to continue to ask the public to attend all of these meetings, not anyone specific, but all of them. And perhaps we could work together on that so that we could keep it in committee of the whole, keep moving forward as a body, and ask you to help craft the agenda for Thursday meetings with alternatives about that. Councilman.
Thank you, Madam President, and I would be happy to do that. And just knowing that the amount of time that we take in committee of the whole dealing with the letter of intent and all the issues that we have to address, my thinking was to separate this out as a separate item to be discussed that may go beyond the letter of intent, looking to encourage the public's participation specifically on this item. And it really doesn't have to do with the letter of intent. It really has to do with the greater vision for the city of Lakewood moving forward. So my thought was breaking it out may allow for greater participation within the community and not trying to condense it to occur within that brief time that we never seem to have enough time to get all the comments from people and all of our questions. It seems like every meeting I go to, the committee of the whole, when we're dealing with the letter of intent, I leave with more questions than I entered with. So I was just looking at an opportunity to invite the participation of our residents within the community that could help lead that vision forward.
I think we need that, and I would look for all of us to participate in that. And it doesn't mean that the schedule we have right now is the last, is solid. We can add to that. So with your indulgence, we could start with Thursday the 12th and then add perhaps more on Mondays. But we do have the letter of intent is just general discussion on every Monday before the council meetings. The other Mondays are specific, and as you know, we started off with a framework of what is population health, what does health and wellness mean in a city the size of Lakewood. So that was what we considered and what we all agreed we wanted as the foundation to start with. So I appreciate very much that you're wanting to dig deeper into that, and perhaps we can start with Thursdays and then add a Monday as necessary. And perhaps we'll have to juggle a few because we're all eager to get to every single subject that this touches, because there's just nothing that this conversation will not touch for all of our residents. So it's as broad as it can possibly be. So I'm hoping that we can agree to keep all of our discussions within committee of the whole.
Well, Madam President, if I can say that, I would agree that we want to keep the discussions in committee of the whole when it's regards to just the letter of intent specifically. But this is kind of outside the realm of the letter of intent, and I would not want this to delay us making a decision about the letter of intent. So this is, I was just looking at this as above and beyond that information we were dealing with. But if we want to start at a Thursday meeting, when we're talking about alternatives and then move beyond that, I will be open to making a suggestion at that time to extend another meeting time.
Madam Chair.
Councilor O'Leary?
Thank you. I thank Councilwoman Marks for bringing this communication forward and do agree that there do seem to be a number of topics related to population health that might exceed the scope potentially of what we're discussing with the letter of intent, but would be very much open to the suggestions that have been made with regard to either scheduling a committee meeting at a same time or an adjacent time to a committee of the whole at which all members could be present, or to a subsequent referral of this communication to the Health and Human Services Committee after discussion in committee of the whole, if that's something that the chairwoman would be open to.
Madam Chair.
Councilman Allen?
I think my preference would be to, at least initially, keep this, the issues that are detailed in Councilman Marks' letter in committee of the whole. I think it's, I appreciate the opportunity to discuss these particular issues, and I thank Councilman Marks for bringing to the fore, but I think that these are certainly related to the other conversations that we're having with regard to the hospital and the future of health and wellness in the city, and I think that I would tend to agree with Councilman O'Leary in that the potential of an initial referral to committee of the whole, the possibility of them referring it out to committee, to the Health and Human Services Committee may make sense, but at least initially I would like to see this this conversation slated with the additional conversations that are currently scheduled.
Is there further discussion? I think that this Thursday the 12th meeting really hits on the beginning of what you're talking about in this. And frankly, these are important enough that we all need to be at every single one of them, discussing all of this. And not just the letter of intent. I want to make clear and make sure we're all clear on that. We're discussing way more than just the letter of intent at these meetings and our committees of the whole. So I appreciate very much that you're bringing this up and do hope that we can continue all of these discussions at committee of the whole.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. Do you want to move to?
I will move that this be submitted to the committee of the whole for further discussion
Okay.
on
Second.
Thursday.
Okay. So you would
I'll alter my original motion.
amend your
Amend it.
original motion to move this to committee of the whole, and a second.
Second.
And thank you very much. I appreciate that. We are all scheduled. We hope to see all of you in the audience at this meeting this Thursday, next Monday, the Monday after that, and we will do it and do it happily. On that motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, Councilwoman
Item
Marks.
16, communication from Mayor Summers regarding mayoral appointment to the Lakewood Citizens Advisory Committee.
Mayor Summers.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of council. I'm very pleased to announce the appointment of Corey Clay to the Citizens Advisory Committee. Corey's an attorney, lives in town, and is very excited to engage and contribute to his government, so we're glad to benefit from it.
Move to receive and file the communication.
Second.
Is there discussion on the mayor's communication? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 17, communication from Mayor Summers regarding mayoral appointment to the Lakewood Loan Approval Board.
Mayor?
Madam Chairman, members of council, again, I'm very pleased to announce the reappointment of Carolyn Spath to the Lakewood Loan Approval Board. This will be her second term. She's served with distinction, and we are grateful that she's wanted to continue on in that capacity.
Move Move to receive and file the communication.
Second.
Is there discussion on the mayor's communication? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 18, communication from Mayor Summers regarding MOU with Lakewood City School District over future project of mutual benefit.
Mayor Summers.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, all members of council. As the Lakewood School District continues with the final phase of its exciting 50-year construction and reconstruction plan, Superintendent Patterson and I have explored ways for the city to assist the district in containing costs and promoting our shared constituents' greater interests. Following this letter is a resolution and a draft memorandum of understanding that will serve our mutual goals. We recognize that the school district will be paying into the city a sizable sum, perhaps upwards of $800,000 for permit fees related to the school's reconstruction in 2015 and 16. Based on the size and scope of the projects that we anticipate, our aim in City Hall is to maximize our efficiencies internally and analyze the fees collected against our actual accounted for costs, such as personnel costs, expenses, and perhaps outsourced costs as well. To the extent the permit fees collected from the schools exceed the city's accounted for costs, the MOU would commit the city to contributing the difference to some future project of mutual benefit to our citizens, all subject to council's future appropriations and council's contracting authority and the Board of Education's approval as well. At this point, any such future project is undefined and will only come into clarity after the thoughtful deliberations between City Hall and the Lakewood Board of Education. While the school board considers this same MOU, I would ask that this resolution and its attachment be referred to a committee of your choosing for further discussion and deliberation. Respectfully, yours truly.
Move to receive and file the communication from the mayor.
Second.
On that motion, is there discussion?
Madam
Thank
Chair.
you, Mayor. For bringing this forward, and I'll take comments from colleagues first. Go ahead.
Well, if you
Go
have
ahead.
something, I would defer to you if you.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought this was a very thoughtful and sensible agreement to propose, and it's another way in which the city is doing its level best to partner with the schools. We don't, in this municipality, have direct control over our schools, so even though sometimes citizens may think we do, so we can only help and support our schools in so many ways, direct and indirect. This is another one that I wouldn't have thought of beforehand. And it seems to me taxpayers win a couple different times because you're going to be practicing lean, efficient government on the city side of permits in the first instance, and in the second instance, in effect, reduce costs on the school budget side of things. So make, getting the dollars they're already paying for the construction project to work a second time for a related project. One question I have, I noticed there was a 12-month time limit or 12-month provision, I believe, included in the proposed MOU. I don't know if that's something that would be presumably extended, or we have a project in mind such as proposed new broadband spine in the city that would benefit both of us. Thanks.
I think, excuse me, Madam President, most of our MOUs have a term, and so they begin in the end, and this has such a term, and I think our deliberation should consider what makes sense given the scope of this project. So, you'll have a chance to engage, help us figure out what that ought to be. So it's a placeholder at this point.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Blunt. Do you have any idea of estimate of funds we're talking about here to you or to Director Pay?
Yeah, well, permits are estimated to be probably slightly more than $800,000. And the cost to actually execute the permits is unknown.
That's
So
the
to the extent we can manage costs successfully, there'll be an opportunity to reinvest it to our mutual agreement.
Madam President.
Councilman Anderson?
Yeah, thank you very much. Not meaning to get in front of our debate or discussion we're going to have at the Committee of Council's choosing on this matter. I'm pretty sure it wasn't the intent of those who support the schools in Lakewood to have $800,000 or more of those dollars to come to City Hall by way of fees and permits. So I think this is a real prudent use of tax dollars money. It sort of takes the balance of some of that pressure off the City Hall to make all that happen. But I know we're still going to be lockstep partner with the school district on making sure that those sites are everything they can be. But this is just another opportunity to show the community that our major institutions do work incredibly well together. And I look forward to having more discussion when this comes before committee. So thank you for putting this forward and putting this together. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? There's a motion and a second on the table to receive and file the communication. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 19, Resolution 879515, a resolution committing the City of Lakewood to a memorandum of understanding regarding the city's exploration of a future project of mutual benefit to the city and school district.
Move to place this resolution within the Finance Committee.
Second.
Is motion made and seconded? Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 20, communication from Law Director Butler regarding updates to Chapter 143, City Records Commission.
Director Butler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The ordinance that follows this communication is an ordinance that will revise the chapter of the codified ordinances regarding our City Records Commission, and it would bring it in line with the existing state law on the composition of those commissions in municipalities statewide. I'd ask that it be referred to a committee of your choosing for further review. Thank you.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that communication. Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 21, Ordinance 1315, and ordinance amending Chapter 143, City Records Commission, in order to update the code regulating the composition and duties of the commission.
Move to place on first reading and refer to rules and ordinances.
Second.
Discussion?
Madam Chair,
Councilman Bullock.
two observations, or observation and question. Number one, I think this is the busiest Rules and Ordinance Committee docket I can recall. It seems that we've got quite a lot that goes to Mr. O'Leary's committee these days. Wonderful. Second is a question. Mr. Butler, thank you for drafting this and responding to citizen inquiry, and as always, in helping us to update our code to get it into conformity with the state code. A question I'd like to ask, or have the chance in the committee to address, would be, could we include, either directly or in some other form, the legislative and or judicial branches in this entity, as we have under LCO today, but in the proposed revision we would not? And if you don't want to answer that or today, that's fine.
Madam Chair, thank you. Thank you, Councilman. And I should make a public point of noting that it was you who brought this to my attention through your constituents, so thank you, Councilman Bullock. I appreciate it. I don't have an answer for you on that question now. And if council, I will tell you that what we're doing in this draft of the ordinance is aligning our City Records Commission with records commissions that are stated or that are created under state code, and which states that there shall exist in every municipality a records commission consisting of the following people. So the question before our committee then would be whether or not that composition could be modified in any way in diversions from state code. And that's a question I'm happy to answer at that point.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second before us, just to receive and file, and actually to place on first reading before rules and ordinances. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 22, liquor permit application for Bevy and Birdtown, 12112 Madison Avenue.
I will go to Councilman Bullock, the chair of our public safety.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I move to defer, given that we do not yet have, we haven't had the chance to get a completed investigation report back yet. So motion to defer.
Second. On the deferral, all those in favor, is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 23, liquor permit application for Citizens Eatery, 14600 Detroit Avenue.
Councilman Bullock?
Move to defer for the same reason as well.
A second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 24, liquor permit application for stock transfers to Barrio 1552733 Madison Avenue.
Councilman Bullock?
Thanks, Madam Chair. In this case, we do have a completed report back from the law and police departments. Thank you, gentlemen. And they both note that there is no reason to object. In this case, it's a change in ownership only, not in the types of the liquor permits involved. So I certainly would be comfortable moving forward, but I defer to the Ward 2 councilman in whose area this business resides.
Thank you very much. I also have no reason to object.
Thank you. So move to file with no objection.
Second. Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion passes. That brings us to the conclusion of tonight's meeting. Is there anyone who has signed up to speak? Mrs. Smith? No public comment? Nobody signed up for public comment? Is there anything that the administration wants to announce or to share with us tonight?
Actually, I do have announcements. Forgot about that. We already did talk about tomorrow's evening's EPA pilot study. That's an important event with 100 residents. On March 10th, next Tuesday, will be the third community meeting. We talked about that earlier, but in this meeting, we'll be specifically focused on the healthcare delivery from the clinical perspective. We'll have the opportunity to hear from several physicians who run these types of facilities throughout the clinic system and get a firsthand experience from them in terms of their expectations of what we can experience. And on March 11th, the next day, that's Wednesday, will be a community dialogue on heroin and hope. Usually those two words don't necessarily go together well, but nevertheless, with community engagement, we can provide some support and hope for those who may be dealing with that drug. We know it's a big issue in our community. It's present here, and it's devastating, and it's deadly. So we appreciate the leadership. This was at the Methodist Church. It is at 6:30 p.m. Folks who attend will learn how to administer Naloxone, and I think they'll be given training and certification, if I'm not mistaken. And then in April, we do have a Wellness Foundation conversation we're preparing for, and that likely will be the week of April 13th. We're trying to figure out, that's tax day, there's a whole bunch of things going on in that week, so we're not sure which day of the week makes the most sense, but we're working on that. So week of April 10th, Wellness Foundation conversation begins.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any announcements from my colleagues? Hearing none, and without objection, move to adjourn.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.